Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, folks, to the Dominant Mets channel. Well, we are the home of the first place New York Mets, standing at 18-7. And folks, come on. We are the best team in all of baseball right now. We are the cream of the crop. All right. And you know what? I just want everybody to be in the moment, right? I know the goal is championships. My goal, it's always been to win the World Series. I want to see us win several championships, but I want us to all just breathe for a moment and just relax and enjoy the moment, because this has not happened often. And if you're a lifetime Mets fan, if you're a new Mets fan, this has not happened often. So, you know what? Again, I just want to start off and say we are 18-7. Let's enjoy the ride because, folks, I keep saying it to everyone. It is going to be special. We are way ahead of schedule. You know, the New York Mets last year, the experts got it wrong about the 2024 Mets, and the experts sure have gotten it wrong about the 2025 Mets. We just disposed of the NL favorites, the Phillies, quite easily, folks. Quite easily. The Phillies should have won that third game. Zach Wheeler going. In fact, if you look at the matchups going in, Nola, Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez versus McGill, Peterson, Griffin Canning. I mean, folks, that should have been a series that typically, if you would have asked somebody before the season, the Phillies would have been severely favorites in the starting pitching category. But the New York Mets have done something extremely special, come out of nowhere. Especially when it comes to our starting pitchers. Everyone has elevated their games, and you just got to give the leaders so much credit. You got to give the players credit for executing. But let's just remember how dysfunctional this franchise has been for umpteenth years. So, that being said, what is Steve Cohen saying? And I want to talk about something fun. Let's talk about the Pete Alonso situation, because I know there's a lot of folks deep down inside right now wondering what is going on with Pete. Let's sign him sooner rather than later. I mean, you could see how much of an impact the polar bear has, I mean, it's just hard to deny, even as far as yesterday, Pete Alonso in the 10th inning tying the game with that massive double. You see, he has his imprint on almost every single win. It's just that amazing. Okay, so let's talk about that. But news just came out a few hours ago. And actually, before I get into the news, I always get so excited I forget to mention this. Let's start off the video right. Like, subscribe if you're a Mets fan, or if you're an MLB fan, we would love to have you join our channel. So hit that subscribe button if you are not a subscriber. And, again, liking the videos helps us out tremendously. And also feel free to drop your comments. Everyone on the channel enjoys reading those, so let us know your opinions. All right, so as I was about to say, news came out a couple hours ago that Jeff McNeil, that he would be joining the team. All right, that's great news. Jeff's off the injured list. He will be able to help the big league club. But the unfortunate news is one player would have to be sent down. Last couple days, Brett Baty's name has been bandied around as potentially going down back to the minors, or it was going to be outfielder Jose Azocar. So news came out that it will, in fact, be Brett Baty going down to the minors. And Brett Baty coming off of last game when he hit that 2-run bomb. And it was a mammoth shot, probably one of the best hits in his short career. And in the last 10 games, he had a close to 900 OPS. He was actually getting into somewhat of a groove. So I could understand why people would be upset. But this move just tells me one thing, doesn't tell me that the Mets like Jose Azocar more. Doesn't tell me that they think that he's the better player. The facts of the matter is Jose Azocar didn't have any options. Brett Baty does have an option. But even further than that, Brett Baty is super important to this team, this franchise. With Jeff McNeil coming back and with Luis Angel Acuna playing very, very well, it just kind of tells me that the Mets didn't foresee getting much playing time for Baty. I think that's all it is. If another injury happens or something happens to the roster, I definitely see Baty up here in a heartbeat. But right now, as it stands, that's the fact. They want to see this kid play, and there will be no playing time available. If you don't play Jose Azocar a lot, or if you have him in a pinch runner or a defensive situation where he goes in to play defense late in the game, you don't care if you do that to a guy like Jose Azocar. But Brett Baty is a chip. He's a jewel. He's somebody you value on the team. He's somebody you want to continue to see him develop. So he's somebody that you want to play to develop those skills. I think that's all it is, folks. It's all about playing time, and it's very, very, very easy to call this kid back up. Whereas Jose Azocar, if you don't want him right now, he's got no options, and most likely he probably wouldn't pass through waivers, so he would be somebody that would be useless if you don't use him right now. Okay, so that was the news up front, and I know again, I think some people would be upset about that because at the end of the day, Brett Baty is more talented, and he's somebody that, as Mets fans, you want to see. All right, so the news. What is Steve Cohen telling Mets fans about the New York Mets start? Really, how should we be feeling? And the words of Steve Cohen have been very, very, I'll say wise. He's a very wise figure right now. We have great leadership. You got to say we have great leadership with our owner, our president, our manager. This is probably the best leadership that the Mets have had in quite some time. But Steve Cohen is urging the Mets fans to keep riding the wave after our latest win against the Phillies. He is basically saying that he is reiterating the message that a lot of Mets fans, especially somebody like myself, he is saying that there's something special happening. The Mets are riding high, and Steve Cohen wants the fans to enjoy it while the going is good. That's what I said on the top of this video. It's so important. Enjoy the moment. This doesn't happen. I mean, when was really the last time? I don't remember a time that the Mets have started off this good. I'm sure back in the 80s, maybe, but I didn't look that up. But it just shows you how rare it is. The Amazons won their 7th game on Wednesday afternoon after the dramatic walk-off win, Starling Marte winning it in the 10th, sweeping the Phillies. Steve Cohen, in the hours after the victory, went onto the X platform and reveled in the victory. Though Steve Cohen did caution that things might not always be this fun. But Steve Cohen went on to say, and this is his quote, "We need to keep riding this wave," Cohen wrote. There will be mean reversion at some point, but there is something special happening at Citi Field. So much fun. All right, so Cohen is basically saying, let's ride the wave. Of course, you're not always going to be this high. Of course, we will go on losing streaks. But right now, for the time being, let's extend the fun. Let's make sure we take advantage of the good energy and go out there and enjoy the moment. That is Steve Cohen's message to the fans. And, I think he's also saying, don't get too low, too. If we lose 2 or 3 games in a row, relax. This is a good team, a good franchise. We got good leaders. Don't worry. It's okay. All right, so the latest fun obviously came in extra innings when the Mets were down by 1. Pete Alonso smacked a game-tying double, and Starling Marte dunked a broken bat single to center field to send the Mets to their third walk-off win of the season and second of this homestand after Francisco Lindor won Friday's game in the ninth with a homer. Cohen also went on to say that Citi Field was rocking last night. Big crowd. Oh, well, he said this about Lindor's home run. So he said this a few days ago. He goes, Citi Field was rocking last night. Big crowd and Francisco Lindor walk-off. Come on out, everybody, and join the fun. We all know last year Mets attendance was down. It was actually down quite a bit, and Steve Cohen was not that happy. And I don't blame him because Steve Cohen is investing a lot in this team, and it's good to see that the fans are going out supporting the New York Mets. It's good to see that the fans are turning the page on some of the old antics. For one, Juan Soto's coming off to a slow start. In the past, the Mets fans were notorious at getting on their players, a la Carlos Beltran years and years ago. But Mets fans have been notoriously impatient. It's good to see that Mets fans are supporting a guy like Juan Soto. Smart thing to do. The guy's here for 15 years. And Juan Soto actually thanked Mets fans. He actually said, you don't know how much it helps and how much it means to know that he has all these supporters in the fans, in the seats. So the Mets so far, it seems like we have averaged close to 37,000 per game, which is well ahead of last year. The Mets have a 720 winning percentage, and the Mets are sixth in all of MLB in attendance. So again, Steve Cohen is thanking the fans. Steve Cohen is basically giving the fans a bit of advice. But, the thing is, like I said, dysfunction was a word synonymous with the Mets. Always what would drop next. But what's also been synonymous with the Mets is a lot of media figures, a lot of people in the sports world, radio talk show hosts, ESPN talk show hosts, a lot of the media always associate negativity with the Mets. Like they always make it seem like when is the ball going to drop with the Mets? When are the Mets going to fail next? And I got to say, folks, the page has turned. That is over. That rhetoric is done. Right now, let's start. The Mets, right now, again, look in the mirror. We are the best. Teams have to come to Citi Field and prove to us that they are worthy. We are 12-1 on Citi Field. Citi Field, like I named it Rip City, and Rip City standing for RIP to the contenders or the opponents coming in. Because so far, any opponent that has come to Citi Field has come to die. And I've noticed other people have had very similar characterizations of Citi Field, but I said it first a couple of days ago. Ha ha ha. All right, so Rip City is our new name of Citi Field, and New York Mets fans, like I said, we got to hold our heads high because we are the cream of the crop right now. Yes, there's like articles out there. It's always like negativity sells when it comes to the New York Mets. And I was looking at, I was doing some research about Pete Alonso, what's going on with Pete Alonso and him, and Pete Alonso extension talks when it comes to the Mets. And John Heyman, he was talking about what are the chances of the Mets signing the Polar Bear soon with regards to in season. So I saw there was an article on SI. So, I'm going to share it with you. So it goes like this. New York Mets slugger Pete Alonso has been one of the best hitters in baseball so far this season. And since most Mets fans understand that Alonso is all but guaranteed to opt out of his player option for the 2026 season and test free agency if he reaches that point, they're probably hoping that he and the Mets front office will engage in contract extension talks while this season is underway. Now, I said a week ago, I said, I love it. I love the Mets to get something done ASAP. ASAP. And you know what? There's risk for Pete. Pete right now could, let's say the Mets throw an offer right now. It's really beneficial for Pete to really consider signing, especially if it's a very good offer, because Pete could tail off, Pete could get injured, so many things can happen. But if the Mets give Pete some type of long-term security, I think Mets fans and the polar bear, it kind of looks like he wants to be a lifetime Met. So it's something that I really want to see. All right. Well, what does John Heyman think? However, New York Post insider John Heyman explained why this isn't likely during an April 23rd live stream with Bleacher Report. John Heyman says, I don't think we're going to get news. I don't think we're going to get news on that during the season. Heyman said when asked about the Mets and Alonso discussing an extension. The issue is there. The Mets are at the top tax. The so-called Steve Cohen luxury 110% tax. He later added, Alonso is going to be looking for more than $35 million plus. If you give him the deal at $35 million per year now, you're adding another $5 million this year plus the tax. Even Steve Cohen has limits, so I don't see it happening. Well, okay, now whether you believe Steve Cohen and Pete Alonso are going to talk in season or not, I think the reasoning given by John Heyman is BS. The reasoning is not that Steve Cohen is afraid of paying the polar bear an extra $5 million plus the luxury tax, which would be a little over $10 million. That's not the reason that he's not going to talk to him in the season. The reason could be, or maybe would more likely be, that Scott Boras and Pete Alonso want to take advantage of a bigger market after a historic season if Pete Alonso keeps this up. It's not because all of a sudden Steve Cohen's going to be rejecting the polar bear if he wants to sign. That's not the answer. I think if the Mets get together and they offer Pete Alonso a contract and Pete Alonso says yes, I think the Mets would be likely to want to work something out. The paying 110% tax is complete BS. BS. All right. So he later added, John Heyman that is, that Alonso is going to be looking for $35 million per year. Oh, no, I apologize. I read that. Okay. Heyman also said of Alonso, as far as an extension, I don't see that as in a likelihood. Not going to rule anything out. Of course not. You got to hedge. But I certainly think that they will talk after the year when he's a free agent. Obviously. The Mets front office doesn't love long deals for the regular age free agents who are pushing 30, he concluded. We've known that for months, years. Therefore, while it sounds like it's a long shot for Alonso and the Mets to negotiate a contract extension this season, that doesn't mean he won't re-sign with New York once again after the season ends. All right, so that's basically John Heyman's thoughts. I'm going to give you my thoughts. on the situation. I think Pete Alonso has proven well beyond a reasonable doubt that he really can affect the Mets' ability to win these games. I mean, he has had an impact on almost 80% of these wins. It's almost amazing how much of an impact Alonso has had in one way or another. I mean, really, it really is. And where would the Mets be right now? Where would the New York Mets be right now with Juan Soto being cold? Where would the Mets be right now if Pete Alonso did not sign with the Mets? So Pete Alonso is proving beyond a reasonable doubt, beyond anybody's belief, that he is vital, extremely important to the New York Mets' chances of winning. And not only that, Pete Alonso is also proving that he is more than just a home run hitter. He has proven that he is a complete all-around hitter with the ability to get on base, the ability to hit singles, hit with runners in scoring position, hit to the opposite field, center field, left field, not just swinging for the fences. Pete Alonso is proving that he is an all-around hitter, that complete hitter. And Pete Alonso is also proving that maybe if he's not a superstar 100% of the time, Pete Alonso has the ability to be special and be a superstar. So that is why I think the New York Mets, considering he is a homegrown Met and considering that Pete Alonso will mean the most to the New York Mets, I think Steve Cohen would heavily consider giving Pete Alonso a contract like Alex Bregman. On the minimum, So Alex Bregman got a 3-year, $120 million contract. Maybe not $40 million a year, maybe around that $35 million mark, maybe have an option for the 4th year. That way, if you include this year and then you include the 4th year, the 4-year contract that the Mets could possibly give, that will equate to the 7-year, $160 million contract total value-wise, and then Pete will have a little more opportunity to make money on the back end. Because here's the deal, folks. Pete Alonso and Scott Boras wanted to make that $200 million figure in the first place, but the fact of the matter is Pete had to go out there and prove that he was that type of player. It's quite obvious this year that if Pete Alonso continues to transform as a hitter and continues to show his ability over the duration of this season, that he has done that. He has shown that he could arise to the level, be a superstar, impact winning, and shows how important he is to this Mets organization because Mets fans love Pete Alonso. And Mets fans will love to see Pete Alonso break all the records. The home run record is going to be broken this year. God willing that Pete Alonso stays healthy. I don't even want to talk about the other side, but chances are 99% chance he will break the home run record. But still, there will be other records down the line, the RBI record, the hits record. I mean, there are other records that Pete Alonso, the slugger, will be able to break. And it'll be really kind of like a sight to see. I've really kind of grown over these last couple months to appreciate Pete much more. And the reason why, I'll be personally honest, I was hard on Pete last year. I was extremely hard on Pete. Pete, I thought, was in the wrong headspace. I think Pete had the wrong approach. I think Pete was I expect the best version of Pete, because I know what type of player he is. I saw what type of player he was. But when he signed with Boras, things seem to change. His priorities seem to change. This year, it seems like he's got his priorities in order. It seems like he's saying the right things that he used to say. It seemed like he's being more of that leader on and off the field. Last year was more about just him. And yeah, I know it's important to think about yourself in a contract year, but if you want to appeal to all 30 teams, you have to show them that you are that leader. You have to show the teams that you can do more than just hit home runs. So I think Pete really has proven that in April. And I think he will continue to prove that. And I think that's why the New York Mets and Pete Alonso will come to terms at some point. The only reason why it might be after this season is because of Scott Boras. But I do hope one thing. I do hope Pete Alonso learns one valuable lesson from last year and last year's experience. That is, you don't listen to Scott Boras about everything. If there's a contract that's on the table that the Mets have in front of you and are offering you, and you're happy with it, and your family's happy with it, that's all that matters. And you have the ability to be a lifetime Met, go ahead, do it, because you never know what happens. You never know how markets change. I think he's got to go with his gut. I think he's got to go with his true emotions. And again, I'm going to say it. Pete was born for like these situations. I mean, I love to see him thrive in this because it just seems such a natural fit. Pete in New York. Pete with Francisco Lindor in that lineup and Juan Soto growing with those two guys over the next, half decade plus, that would be, that would build that chemistry, that bond. And, teams need that. Teams need that togetherness. That's how they get to the next level. And then you continue to build around that core, the core being Alonso, the core being Lindor, the core being Soto, obviously. And then, you got pieces, Vientos, Alvarez. Hopefully Beatty takes it to the next level. Nimmo, you got to see how he, develops, not develops, but how his, knee issues progress over the next couple of years. Hopefully we can deal with that. But nonetheless, the Mets have money to mitigate anything that would go wrong, and they have the right leadership in place to steer things back on track. So this New York Mets franchise right now, again, this video, I want everybody to be proud. I want everybody to enjoy the moment. Tomorrow we're going to be going with now today it's after 12 o'clock at night. We will be starting a series against the Nationals. Hopefully we can continue to build our lead. We are 5 games ahead of the Phillies. 5 games ahead of the Phillies on April 25th. That is freaking amazing. I did the analysis before and I said, hey, the next, I believe it was the AL West had a 2-game lead over the next closest. And then somebody's like, well, all the other teams combined have a 5.5-game lead over their second team. So the New York Mets having a 5-game lead is just monumental at this point. And it was demoralizing to the Phillies. And that's what you want. You want to demoralize any team. You want any team that comes into Rip City, City Field, aka City Field, to have that pit in the bottom of their stomach. Mets fans, again, being that 10th man, are doing an awesome job as well. It's just a sight to see. It's a sight to see, so I'm happy. Hopefully you're happy. Let's go Mets. Again, we're going to try to get more and more videos out there. So again, if you're not subscribed, get to subscribing. And if you didn't get a chance to like the video, please like the video. We will end here. So thank you, and let's go Mets.